record. Okay. And also, I just posted this the video of our last TA session in the online learning. So, and I'll post it as well today. So I can give you 5 minutes to look at this first question, and then we'll start. I'll start showing you the answers. If you think you have the answer, or if you do have the answer, or if you're confident that this is within your ability, you can, like, I don't know, there's a function in the Zoom, you can raise your hand, and I'll know that. I will not ask you any questions, so don't be afraid. I just want to know how many of you are confident with this kind of question or already. Yep, we're doing 4.9. shall we just start explaining, or should I give you more time? Okay, I think I'll just start explaining. Are you seeing this whiteboard here? Yep, yep, okay. So first of all, we're gonna look at this kind of problem in general. How do we solve it? Specifically for like this question here, there's a discount point. So here is the order quantity, our Q, and doesn't matter, but we just look at here, we have a threshold, which is 300. So if we order more than 300, we'll get a discount on the price of the unit of the product. And so what do we do first? We use the price. So there is a price which is discounted. So we first use this price to calculate the EOQ. And we see if it's above the threshold or below the threshold. It's important because if we calculate this EOQ and we see that it's, say, 280, it's below the threshold, which means because then you cannot use this discount because it's below 300, right? Then it doesn't make sense. But if, say, we calculate the EOQ and it's 320, then it's perfectly fine. Then this will be our order quantity because it's above 300 and we're using the discounted price, so everything is perfect. But what if the price is below 300, below the threshold? So first of all, we use our original price, PO, to calculate the original EOQ. Well, first of all, if you look at the equation, 2AD divided by VR, when V increases, because this is the discounted price and this is our original price, which is higher. When V goes up, our EOQ is going down. So the base EOQ will be somewhere to the left. Let's say it's here, 260. It'll be less than our discounted EOQ. But what if, say, we are increasing from 260 to the right? What will happen to the total cost? Anybody want to answer this? Well, okay. Well, first of all, since this is our EOQ, which means that it is the lowest total cost. It is the point where we have the lowest total cost. So, of course, when we are increasing from 260 to the right, the total cost will increase. But there is a point when we reach this point, 300, then the discount price kicked in. And remember, okay, I'll just clear this. The formula for our total cost is AD divided by Q plus, there is a third cost to our total cost in this occasion, which is V times D, which is our purchasing cost. This is our ordering cost. This is our inventory holding cost. And this is the new cost we are considering because the price is changing here. And we want to satisfy the demand. So we have to buy all of the demanded units. And that's why once we reach this 300 point, you see that when it's here, we are using the original price, VO times D. But once we hit this point, we are using the discounted price times D. And you'll see that there will be a huge spike. So the total cost is suddenly drops a huge amount, or not a huge, but a large amount once we reach this 300 point. So say this is our EOQ original. When we go this way, we are increasing, but suddenly here it is decreasing a lot. And then it's increasing again because the price is not changing from here on. And we are further away from our base EOQ point. The price will also change in carrying cost, right? It also, yes, of course, this part is, remember this part is when we're like calculating the EOQ and stuff, right? We're not using this stuff because in the base EOQ formula, the price is not changing, so we are not considering this. And these two are changing, and we want to see how they interact with each other. But that's why we say this is where we calculated our base EOQ point is, which means when you are furthering away to this point, this like the sum of these two are increasing. Of course, when you are going this way, you are ordering less, so the ordering cost, so you are ordering more times, so the ordering cost is more and the inventory holding cost is less, but the total amount is increasing because you are furthering away from the equilibrium point. And it's the same to the right. Your ordering cost is decreasing, but your inventory holding cost is increasing. But it's guaranteed that the sum of these two are increasing because this is the point where it's the combination of the sum of these two are the lowest. And that's why we say when you are moving to the discounted point, it is increasing. But once you hit this point, there's a sudden drop in the total cost because of the part we were not considering like before, but we have to consider it here because we have two prices. And once we got this clear, then, well, first of all, there are two situations, right? You calculate the discounted EOQ, and if it's above the discount threshold, then everything's perfect. But if it's to the left, then there are 2 points you are considering. The first point is when Q is equals to, well, here it's 300. But it's the discounted price threshold, which usually it's given in a context. And the second point you're considering is base EOQ point, but this is base, which means you are using the original price, and it is usually less than the discounted EOQ. But this point will definitely not be used. As you can see, we are moving further away. Well, first of all, you are below the discount threshold, so you cannot use the discount. And then you had to come back to the base EOQ. That's necessary. And then the base EOQ is here, so this is not optimal. But as we discussed, here there's like an uncertainty. We're not sure because it's increasing, but then it's decreasing, but we don't know how, like which part is more. So we have to compare this point to this point. By comparing, I mean comparing the total cost. And So we are at situation 2. Situation 1 is perfect and it's very simple. So we just look at situation 2. So there are 2 total costs. We're considering first, we considered the quantity where it's the discount threshold. So here it's 300. Well, we are using this formula. QB here is 300, A and D are all given, and this is our inventory holding cost. And well, it's QB here, 300. And since we're at the discount point, we're sitting right at the discounted point. So we use the discounted price. Well, I'll just say V2 times D. This is the first point we're considering. And there's a second point we're considering, which is our base UQ point. And let me see. And the formula is given to be this. I'll use V1 to indicate that it's the original price. This is the combination of the total cost of the ordering cost and inventory holding cost. You can deduce this, but also, or you can just use it because it's given by the book. And this part is the ordering cost, no, not ordering, purchasing cost, the cost of the units. And then you compare these two numbers. That's what we talked about. We're not sure which is higher, which is lower, but we just compare these two and we see which one is lower. And then we just use which one is lower. If our base UQ is lower, the total cost is lower, then we just use our base UQ point and ignoring the discount. But if, say, this total cost is lower, then we will just use this discounted threshold as our Q. That's what we discussed, because when you're moving, it is increasing, but suddenly it hits a spike, and then the total cost is decreasing a lot here. And in this case, or you examine the case, and if it's the case, then you use this. This is all about the my explaining part. And then we go back. I'll show you. You can either use a calculator or using Excel or calculating by hand. Doesn't matter, but here I'll show you how I did it. So as always, I was using Python, and you import NumPy. The demand here is a little bit tricky. There are two ways you can deal with it. First of all, as you can see, the demand here is 40 per week. And our carrying cost is 0.26 per dollar per year. And so you can either change this demand, calculate it in the whole year, or you can change this carrying cost, change it, divide it by 12 and change it to per month. But it doesn't matter. You can do it. You can do both. You can do either. But here I think this one is it's simpler. I just changed the demand. Oh, there are 52 weeks per year. So you multiply it by 52, and this is the total demand of a whole year. And then you can use this because then they're in the same unit. And our original price is $10, and the discounted price is 9.7. Ordering cost is 25, and carrying cost. And this is the discount threshold. So first of all, as you can see, I'm using V2 here. I'm using the discounted price to calculate the discounted EOQ and compare it with the threshold to see if it's above or below. That's what we discussed. If it's above, then perfect, we use it, solved. But if it's below, then we examine it. Are you seeing the output? Wait. Are you seeing the output here? 203. Or I recommend you follow like either using a calculator or something. It'll be better. But you'll see that this Q is below 300. It's not above the discount threshold, which means we cannot use this. We absolutely cannot use this. And then that's what we discussed. We calculate the two total cost point. The first one is the base EOQ, and the second one is the threshold, 300. And the formula for the first one is square root 2 AD times the original price times the carrying cost, which is the sum of the holding cost and ordering cost, and then the purchasing cost using the original price. This is, you can find the equation here in the book. As you can see, this is our equation for the EOQ point. And here is the equation for the discounted point. And yeah, this is our total cost for the discounted point. Just remember that you had to use this discounted price and the original price in the first one. So but just for the purpose of showing, I'll show the output. As you can see here, the total cost is something. And here, the total cost, as you can see, it's lower. And which means that's what we were talking about. The reason for that is because of the increase, is because of the change in this part. Because we are using the discounted price, and that made the difference. Although our sum, like the total inventory holding cost and purchase ordering cost is higher, this makes more difference than that. And in total, since the total cost of our threshold point is lower, we will use the threshold point, which means our economic order quantity here is 300. So it's a bit tricky. And if you want more explanations, I'm not sure I explained this perfectly, but it's all written in the book in the chapter 4.5. Is this clear? Can we move on? Which means our replenishment size should be 300. And B, if the supplier was interested in having a mining company acquire at least 500 units at a time, what is the largest unit price they could charge for an order of 500 units? And to answer this question, first you examine if this 500, well, suppose that we're still using this chart and we're still using this part. We want to see if this 500 is above the threshold point, and you'll see that it's above. So, well, it actually doesn't matter because we have to decide the price here. So recall our EOQ formula is 2AD divided by VR. And now we have A, we have D, we have R, and we also have our Q, which is the expected Q expected, which is what we want from a certain company. And then we just do a little bit of transformation on the formula, and this is what we are after. So we move it to the left-hand side, and sorry, you see that the formula will be 2AD divided by Q squared multiplied by R. Okay, and it's just simple mathematical equational transformation. And now you'll see that everything here is given, and you just calculate our new price. And this is how I did it. You give a new parameter, Q expected, which is 500. And then this is the new formula we were talking about. You do a little bit of transformation, and it's 2AD divided by R multiplied by Q squared. And then you calculate the expected price, which is $1.6 per unit. This B seems a lot less complicated than the first one when the discounted price kicked in. And I highly recommend that you at least know what's going on when there's discounted price involved. These steps, which will have a more complicated case here, but we'll just look at 4.15 here. If you have any questions, feel free to either put it in chat or just directly unmute yourself. And it should be a lot less informal than the lectures, so feel free to do most of the things you want to do. Well, actually, this 4.15 is really generic. So I hope I can get some positive feedbacks from you. Well, okay, so you send it to me privately, so I first have to repeat your question. In part B, we do not consider D. In part B, we do not consider D multiplied by V, the extra part apart from EOQ. That's what we were talking about, because that part does not change. How do I? Well, first of all, that's why I examined if this 500 is above this 300 threshold. If it's above, then as we discussed in A, if it's above, it's the perfect situation, right? We have the discounted price and 500 is above the threshold, then it's the perfect situation. Then we do not consider, how should I put this? Then the D multiplied by V part is not changing, because we are for sure using the discounted price, and that means D multiplied by V is not changing. And if you are familiar with the original of the origin of the equation of EOQ, then you, because you are how do I say it? What's the word? You are using the derivative of the EOQ formula, the cost formula, and if it's not changing, then the derivative is 0. So of course you are not considering if it's not changing at all. Does that, okay, thank you. I recommend that if you're, I don't know, if you're interested, or it's generally better if you understand what's going on behind these equations. If you know why, like if you can derive the EOQ formula yourself, then you'll be a lot more confident when you're solving these questions. Because you know, like in your head, which part is like means what, and if it's changing or not, and how it's changing when the variables are changing, then you will be crystal clear. But are there any questions in this part? I'm hoping that there should be no problems now. It's just applying the formula and change the formula a bit, right? The first one is just super simple. Just D is given, V is given, A is given, and R is given. Everything is given, then you just calculate. And B is actually very similar to this one. You change the formula a bit. You move the stuff that you are after to the left, and move the Q. Sorry, is it Q here? Let's see. Yeah, you have the Q, which is Q expected is 1. Then you move Q to the right. Okay, I'll just... Well, in this occasion, we're after A, and these are all given. So it's actually quite similar. So it's just Q squared VR divided by 2D, which is our A. Then you just use this formula to calculate. Q is 1, V is 40, R is 0.25, D is 100. And then you calculate the order cost, or expected order cost. I'll still show you the code, but it's, as you can see, it's super simple. We just put the numbers in, and the first one is just calculate the EOQ, which you get the number, and You put Q expected to be 1, and this is the formula that we discussed. Q squared multiplied by V and R divided by 2D. Then you get the expected ordering cost, which is $0.05. Are we clear? Can we move on? Yep. 2.21. I'm afraid I can't give you more time to actually solve this question, but have we already read through this one? I'll just start explaining. Yep. Okay. So this is just a more complicated version of the previous question, of the discount question, which we have 2 discount thresholds and 2 discount prices. Then what do we do? Well, first of all, you can ignore this discount and then just look at this one, the higher discount, which is 20%. Is it 20%? 15%. And you follow the same procedure. You calculate the using the 15 discount point, using the 15 discount price. You calculate the EOQ and see if it's above the threshold, 1,000. If it's above, then perfect. We use that, solved. And what if it's below 1,000? Say it's between 500 and 1,000. Then it becomes interesting because, as we discussed, this point is still of interest, right? We still, although it's below 1,000, this point could still be a viable solution. And then what we do next is we use the 5% discount here and calculate the new EOQ. The new discount, the 5% discount EOQ. And it should be to the left. That's what we discussed. Because our price is going higher, then the EOQ should be lower. So it's to the left, and say it's higher than 500, which means this point, like from the perspective of 5% discount, it's viable. And then what we need to do is we compare this one to this one. This is clear, right? And there are several other occasions. I'm not sure if I need to like discuss all of them, but I'm sure you can make sense out of it. Say this is 15 discount point, and suppose our 5 discount EOQ is less than 500, and that makes that point not viable anymore. But keep in mind the 500, wait. Yes, but keep in mind this 500 point could still be viable. And then the next step is comparing these two. Or actually I should say you compare the base EOQ, which is base with no discount. Base EOQ, as we discussed, is to the left. And these 3 points, all of them could be viable because it is increasing, but the price suddenly decreased. It is increasing, but price suddenly decreased again. So you're not sure, right? And you want to check all 3 of the points. And I think, or I think that covers all of the situations. So we go to our specific situation, and we put our numbers in. This is the order cost, which is 50. Base price is 2, and the first discount is 5%. So we multiply it by 0.95. And the second discount is 15%. So we multiply it by 0.85. And inventory holding cost is 0.2, and demand per year is this. And or you can put this one as well. This is the threshold for the discounts. The first discount is 1,000, and the second discount is 500. And as we discussed, the first thing we want to do is check the highest discount EOQ point and see where it sits. As you can see, it's 951. So that's what we discussed. It's below 1,000, and that makes this point not viable. So this 951 will never be, will definitely not be our result. But as we discussed, the discount point 1,000 is an interesting point that we want to discover. So we calculate that total cost using the discount price formula, and we just store it for ourselves to compare later. And then we try the second discount, the 5% discount, and see where it sits. And we calculate it, and we see it's 899. And as you can see, it's less. That's what we discussed. We are expecting this. But also, we see that it's above 500, which this basically is saying that we're not considering the base case anymore, right? Because, remember the first one? If you're using a discount, you calculate the EOQ, and you can use that discount, which means the EOQ you calculated is above the threshold, and that basically eliminates the base EOQ because you are for sure using that discount. And that's what we're saying here. It's above 500, which means everything about the base case, the base ZOQ is not interested. We're not interested in that anymore. And we also discussed this case like before that I showed you. Now, this is our like choice 1, and our choice 2 is this 1,000 is the highest discount threshold. And yeah, but you can calculate the total cost for the 5% discount by using the formula. But just note, be noted that you should like be aware of the price that you're using and the quantity, the Q you are using. So here I'm using QB1, which is 1,000, and V2, which is the highest discounted price. And here I'm using, well, first of all, it's another equation. And second of all, I'm using V1. And, oh, sorry, this is the Q we are calculating. Sorry, I'm sorry. And we see it's 900, and then we use the same formula as before because it's not the base EOQ point. Sorry, we're using the second formula, the square root of 2AD V1 VR. Yeah, I'm actually not sure why we're using different formulas here. I'll definitely check that later. But we're using the first discounted price V1 here, and you calculate the total cost. And then you compare these two. I'll just show you. So the 5% discount point is number 6,184. And this one is 5,000. And it's the same, like same scenario happening again. Although like, because our Q is like drifting apart from the equilibrium point, but since we hit a nice discount threshold, and this part is decreasing significantly and suddenly, and that makes the 1,000 point the most interesting or the most viable point. And that's how we solve it. Then the order quantity should be 1,000. And how often should the manufacturer order from the supplier? Then it's just D divided by Q, right? So here is our QB1. Yeah, I don't want to create a variable for that, but you can see it's just around 3 times per year. If you are clear with this, like complicated version of the discount and stuff, where you have 2 discount thresholds and you are examining more, and you have to make sure like you are clear to the sequences, like what you're checking first, and depending on what's happening, which point are you considering, which point are you like aborting, then you reach the final point. So we can move on from here. Yep. And this one. We can have a break and come back at 11:05. And yeah, I'll stop sharing, and you can go on It's Learning and download it, see it for yourself. Hello, are we back? Can I be given any signs that we can continue? Oh, okay, I have a sign. Okay, thank you. So I suppose that you have read through the problem, and the idea is to apply different heuristic models onto this problem. And we'll just get started with the first one, A, using the fixed UQ method. Well, first of all, I just want to say, show you that so this is in Atlas PowerPoint. This is his fixed UQ, and you can see that he calculated the Q, and then he just applied this Q fixed UQ onto the demand. But I have a different method compared to his. As you can see, well, first of all, we calculate using the average demand. We calculate the UQ as well, but in the book, calculate the UQ. But in the book, the author is using a different method, which I'll explain it using Excel. But just to keep in mind that this is a bit different than what Otla shared in his course. So I'm not sure. I think you can use either one, but just in this method, I'm using a different one with Otla. Nope. So you can use Excel for this one. For the purpose of better visibility, I'm just gonna delete this. But first you need to calculate the UQ. Still, you can use a calculator, or what I did is I still preferred Python. Where is it? So I put the demand in and all of the parameters, and then let me run this. And then you see I'm using the sum, which is a bit different, but then I multiply the time horizon, which I put 12 months, because the units here, let's check. Yep, the unit here is month, and the reason why I multiply it by 12 is this inventory holding cost R is per month, and if we multiply it by 12, then this R will be per year, right? So 1.2 will be the inventory holding cost per year, and that's why I multiplied this R by T, and then we can safely use the sum of the demand, or you can like sum the demand, or you can use the numpy dot average, calculate the average, and then divide it by R, and then leave this T. You'll get the same result, and you'll see the number is 274. And now we have this magical number we can go to Excel and then we put this number in, just to remind ourselves that we are using our average, or the EOQ derived from average demand is this. And applying the method in the book, which is we put the cumulative demand in, and it's 200 plus 300, right? 200 plus 300. And well, because this one is smaller, and our goal is to find the nearest cumulative demand to our number here. And because we're finding the nearest, intuitively, we want to find one number that is smaller and one number that is larger, so we can so we know that this number is within, and we just see where it is close to. And you can see that here it's 74, and another one is 200 something, 226. So this number is closer, and that means we abandon this one, and that means we are only gonna satisfy the first demand in our first month, because the reason that I stated. And then we move on to the second month. The first cumulative demand is 300, and the second one is 300 plus the next number is, well, I'm being stupid. You see that this is already larger than our number here. So we just don't have to move on anymore, because this number will for sure be the closest one, because any number we're plussing, it's further away from 274. So we satisfied the second month, the demand of the second month as well. And then here we do the same thing. It's 180, and then it's 250, and then it's 300. It's just 180. This one is plus 70, and then we plus 50. And you see that our number is between here, and it's 24 away from this one and 26 away from that one. So that's why we satisfy the demand of the next 2 months, which means we put this number in, and you see that we already satisfied the demand of this month using our inventory. So we put 0 here. And we do the same stuff, 50 and 70 and 80, 200. And it's the same thing. You see that it's closer to, because it's 74 from this one, and sorry, it's 74 from this one and 46 from this one. So it's closer to this one. So we satisfied the demand of next 6 months by using this number. And that means we have 5 zeros. You see that we satisfied the demand of the next 6 months by applying this rule. And here it's the same thing. 150. Sorry, 34. And you see that it's closer to sorry, it's 124 from this one, and 86 from this one. Sorry, 66 from this one. So it's closer to our number here. That's why we put this in. And you see the numbers are checking, means we satisfied the whole demand. And you can see that I calculate the ending inventory for each month by using the function in Excel, and then you get the total by summing from here to here. And to calculate the ordering cost, we just see how many times we are ordering. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So 5 here. And our ordering cost is 160 per order. So 5 times 160. And then here, it's just calculated by this 0.11 multiplied by our holding cost, which is per month, and multiplied by our unit value. And then you get the sum of these two. You see that it's this number here. Is this clear? Yeah. I think this is the one of the most easiest one, because you just calculate the number, but then you can either use this method or you can use what Atla suggested, which is 274. And you see, since this is, and you don't need it here, you don't need it here, you need one here, and you need one here. I just think that the problem of this one is that you can see that we have an ending inventory in the end, and it makes sense to me, at least here we need to order like only 40 of them. But yeah, it's up to you. It's up to you which one you want to use, but I recommend you use the one from the book, which is calculating the cumulative demand from that point and find the nearest point to this number. Which is suggested here. Cumulative demand 10, and 10 plus 62, and plus, and you find the number that is closer to the EOQ that is calculated. And then you satisfy the demand until that point. So this is question number 8. We're gonna skip B and explain it to at the last, because it's the hardest one. So next we're gonna look at silver meal, and so silver meal is explained here. The silver meal heuristic. You can basically ignore everything that is said here and just look at the formula. And the idea is to calculate the total relevant costs per unit time. Well, first of all, the idea is to calculate like some T, which is in terms of time units. Here it's months, and you calculate that number, which is the number of months of demand you want to supply from that point. Well, from that point, I mean, first of all, you start from the first month, apparently, and then you get some number T by using this heuristic. And then say T is 2, which means you satisfy the first 2 months, and then you stand at the point of the third month. And that is like your new starting point. You do all of the stuff again, but starting from there, and get another number T by applying the heuristic again. And so this is the idea behind it, but the hardest part is to calculate the total relevant cost per unit time, which you need to calculate it several different times, because you want to compare some different numbers from 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and until the idea is set here, I think. Let's see. the basic idea of the heuristic is to evaluate the number that we are calculating iteratively for several times from 1, 2, 3, 4, but you stop when t for the first time is increasing, which is indicated here. So you see that in his calculation, in the example here, it is decreasing from t equals to 1 to t equals to 2, and it's decreasing again, but it is increasing for the first time here from t to equals to 3 to t equals to 4. And that means, according to the heuristic, we use the magic number of t equals to 3. And that means we supply the demand of the first 3 months, right? And then we start from the 4th month, and then we do this whole thing again. And then we calculate another t. There are some extreme occasions where, for example, when t equals to 1 to when you calculate t equals to 1 and t equals to 2, and it's already increasing from the first time. But you can still apply the heuristic because it's increasing for the first time. So you use the number 1, right? And there is another extreme occasion, which is, say you're on the last 3 months, and say you're sitting on month 10, and this is month 11, and this is month 12, and you see that it's decreasing from month 10 to month 11, and it's decreasing again. And this is our last month. We don't have any point where it's going to increase at all. But that automatically means we chose the number 3. We don't need to see it increase again, because the idea is to have the average cost per unit time at a minimum. So if it's decreasing all the time, then you just use that number, the last number. And this only happens at the end. So if you're at the end of your calculation, this will probably happen. And there's the last extreme occasion, which is you have the, like you calculate it at the point of month 11, and you have only the last month 12 in the end, and then you don't need to calculate anymore. You just supply the demand of that month. So these are all the situations that I encountered when I do the calculations. There could be more that I didn't encounter, but yeah, I think that covered all of them. And I don't think I can explain like the idea of the calculation thoroughly through just a Zoom session. So I'm afraid you have to go to the book and see it yourself. And that I am unable to help. But I'm gonna show you, well, first of all, this is not required, but last night I spent some time to just create a Python algorithm for this. And well, let's do it this way. There's an example here. You can see computations for the first one. Yep. Oh, right. Yep. So there's a numeric example. Here are the demand for each month. And the order cost is 54, unit price is 20, and carrying cost is 0.02. And I'm going to just use this example. And here are the results of his calculation according to results of using or the silver meal heuristic. And just to show you that you will get the result using this code. and the code is definitely not optimized. So I'm hoping that you guys can create a better version. And you see, oh, 54, V is 20, R is uh, this is embarrassing. As you can see, the code is not correct. I'll just modify it. But yeah, I'm sorry for that. But the idea is the same. You just apply the heuristic using the equations and calculate from there. I was pretty sure that this was working. Such a shame. But just to give you an example, I'm just going to calculate it the hardcore way using the first, just calculate the first, for the first t. So our first cost is 200, well, sorry, the first cost is just the order cost, which is 160. And the second one is 160 plus 300 times times our V times our R, and divide this whole thing by 2. And then we get 155. You see that it's decreasing, so we need to calculate again and to see if it's increasing in the next period. And it's 160 plus 300 times V times R. And the demand from the third month is 180 times 2, because we need to carry this amount of inventory for two months. If, say, we provide the demand of the whole 3 months at the start, and we're only multiplying it by 1 because we only need to carry this amount of inventory for 1 month, and multiply by V, multiply by var R, divided by 3, and the number is this, and you see that it's increasing. That's what we're talking about. According to the heuristic, it is decreasing and it's increasing for the first time from t equals, this is t equals to 2, this is t equals to 3. So we choose this point, we choose t equals to 2. And then you can use this here, and you remove those. and because we are supplying the demand from the first 2 months, so it's 200 plus 300. And then you do the same again, starting from this point. You calculate it here, which is 160, and 160 plus 70 times V times R, parenthesis, divided by 2, and then you do the whole process again. I'm going to modify the code and make sure that it works before I upload it on Ace Learning. And yeah, but it's the same idea. And then LUC model. It's the least unit cost. Well, it's pretty clear that what he said, it's similar to the heuristic that we just mentioned before. Just the formula is a bit different. Before we calculate the average total cost per unit time, but here we calculate per unit. So before we are divided by 2 when it's 2 months and divided by 3 when it's 3 months, but now we're dividing it with the cumulative. Let's see if it's shown here. Yes. So this lot size is the cumulative demand. As you can see, this 72 is 10 plus 62. And then you summing it with 12, which is the cumulative demand. And that is the only difference. The total cost is the same. The calculation of the total cost is the same. This 12, you're carrying it for 2 months in inventory. So you multiply it by 2 and multiply it by V by R. Yeah. So the calculation of the total cost is the same, but the difference is you're dividing it with the cumulative demand until that point, and you get different numbers. And the heuristic is the same. When it's increasing for the first time, you select the one that is lower, which is the local minimum. And here the number is 3, so you supply the demand of the first 3 months. And then the idea is the same. You start from the 4th month and you do the same whole process again. I also write a code because I just modify the code from the previous one, but since that one is not working, I'm just not gonna shame myself. And using the PPB, which is explained here, part period balancing. And the idea is to select the number of periods. So we are doing the T thing again. We're calculating the T, the optimal T, covered by, and such that total carrying costs are made as close as possible to the setup cost. And this total carrying cost is calculated as the same here. It's the same. But we're just not dividing it to anything and just use that total cost and compare it with our, that this is total carrying cost. So we're not adding any 52 or adding any ordering cost in that. And we calculate the total carrying cost, which here as an example, if T equals to 1, there are no carrying cost. I think, yeah, it's explained here as well. So it's 0 if T equals to 1. And if it's 2, this is the demand in the 2nd month. And since since T equals to 2, this demand of the 2nd month stays in our inventory for 1 month. So we multiply it by 1 or nothing and multiply it by VR, we get the total inventory cost, total carrying cost. And yeah, we leave this number here for later comparison if it's smaller than 54. If it's already larger, then it is the number. And we move on to t equals to 3. And this is the total carrying cost in the previous, if t equals to 3. And if we increase t to 1, we are carrying the demand of the third month for 2 months, because it stays here and here for 2 months. So we multiply it by 2, and we get the total cost. It's the same here, and it's the same heuristic again. We want it's the same heuristic to the fixed EOQ, where we want to find the nearest number to that point. And here we see the nearest number is when t equals to 3, it is the nearest. So t is 3 for our first month. And I'm going to show you. You can just do this in Excel, and you don't need anything else. So we start from here, and as we discussed, the first one is 0, and the second one is we're carrying 300, which is the demand for our second month. We're carrying it for 1 month. So we multiply it by, well, V multiplied by R together is 0.5. So we just use 0.5. And it's 150. And we're comparing it with our A. And you see that it's below A. So we want to calculate once more when it's higher and see which one is closer. So we use this and multiply and summing it with 180, but we're carrying it for 2 months, and multiply it by 0.5. And we see the number is 330. And when we compare it to 160, we see that this is closer, which means we supply the demand of the first 2 months. And we do it again with this starting point, 0. And the demand of the next month is 70. We're carrying it for 1 month, so multiply it by 0.5, and it's 35. And we do it again with 50, but we're carrying it for 2 periods. So it's 85. It's still below 160, so we need to go on. And the next number is 20, but we're carrying it for 3 months. And we need to do it again. The next number is 10. We're carrying it for 4 months. And we need to do it again. 30 for 5 months. And it's finally above 160. And you see that it's 50 from here and it's 25 from here. So which means we satisfy the demand of the following 5 months. And you calculate it, which is and then we do it again here, 0. And we see that it's above and it's closer to this number. So it means we satisfy it in this way. We do it again here, it's 0. And we see it is closer to this number. So we satisfy the demand for the next following months. And we are ordering 1, 2, 3, 4 times. So it's 4 times 160. And yep, the total cost is given here. So we can just follow the procedure. The next one is POQ. POQ is explained here, which is basically our EOQ, because we calculate our EOQ, but then we calculate the how often, the how many times we are ordering per month, or no, the frequency we're ordering in terms of months, and we need to, what is it called, round it to the nearest integer. So here in the example is 1.6, so we round it to 2, and then we use it as the 2-period time supply. So we supply 2 months at a time. And in the example here, as we calculate the demand, the EOQ is 274. So 274 divided by our average demand. And our average demand is this. And then we get the number of 2.33, and its nearest integer is 2. So we use 2. And as you can see, we're supplying 2 months at a time. So we are supplying 6 times in total, and the total cost is calculated here. The last one is the hardest one, which is the Wager-Witten algorithm. And it is thoroughly explained in the book. But even if I have read it several times, I'm still not 100% sure what the idea is behind it. But what I did is just I studied how this table was made and how you can derive the answer from this table. And I'll share it with you. Okay, I'm not sure. I want to delete everything. So just to be sure, I'm not gonna tell you, or I'm not gonna explain how this works. I'm just gonna show you how you can make you can duplicate this table with the given situation and how you can derive the answer from there. So the first number you're putting in is the order cost, 160. And the next number you're putting in, first of all, you put it here, one cell below, and it's basically and then this number is calculated by, first of all, it's 160 plus this requirement multiplied by 1 multiplied by 0.5. And then you drag this along until the okay. So you sum it from here, instead. That's the mistake that I made. Yep, and that's it. And then you find the smallest number here, or the only number here is 160. But the reason we're marking it here is that the number we're putting in, like the one cell below, the number we're putting in is the number that is lowest here, plus the order cost, which is in our occasion here. And this is calculated in the same way. We're carrying this for 1 month, and we drag this, and you see that this is calculated by 2 times because we're carrying this for 2 months. And then we mark the smallest number here, and that is the number we're summing it with the order cost. And this is calculated by this plus this multiplied by 1 multiplied by 0.5. But yeah, this is a basic idea, and you mark this. This is the smallest, and you get this number, and you calculate this number, you drag it along, and you repeat until you have this. And then when you have this, you start from the last month, and we mark that the lowest number here is this one, and then you just like try to reach to the left side until there's no number anymore. And here we try to reach, and we reach here. It doesn't matter if it's the smallest one. We just reach here, and this will be our ordering point. Say, for example, this is our smallest number, then we just order it from here. And so these two are like paired together. We are going to supply the demand of these 2 months together. I'm going to show it here. And that means we have here. And then we start, so we ignore these, and we start again with this chart from the last point. The smallest number here is 900, and we do the same. We try to reach to the left until there's no cells, no numbers anymore. And it means we're ordering here. And these 2 months are together. And so here it's like this. And then we start from here. We find the smallest number here is this. And then we try to reach. And then we get this whole span of 6 months, because this is the point where we cannot reach any further. And that means we're supplying the demand for this whole 6 months. And that is 360. And so this is what we have left. And the smallest number here is here. We try to reach to the left, and that means we're supplying the demand for the first 2 months. And yeah, it should reach like 0 at the end. And then you see we're ordering 4 times in total. That means 4 multiplied by 160. And the average demand is calculated. So our total cost is here. You'll see that in comparison, the number we get using, but you'll see when you calculate all the 6 numbers, the number here will be the smallest, because this is the best way to do it. And it's the most complicated way. that will be the everything for today. I'll try to make the code work and post it on Ace Learning, and I'll also post this whole Excel sheet on Ace Learning as well. And yep, are there any questions? If no, we can end this session today. And thank you for attending.